What is the highest point in South Tyneside? The Boldon Hills would seem to be the obvious candidate, prominent in the landscape, topped by a couple of towers. Yeah, Boldon Hills. No, not Boldon Hills. In fact, it's this one here. Recognize it? Boldon Hills. It's also right on the border with Sunderland, which extends right up to the lower slopes. Okay, let's find that summit. The plural, hills, denotes more than one peak. In the case of the Boldon Hills, the two peaks are downhill, the main one, and Nanny Cow Hill, which doesn't really exist anymore, due to development. This is where Nanny Cow Hill was. Now a reservoir, and even that is named after its bigger neighbor, downhill. The name Nanny Cow suggests some kind of legend or folklore should be attached to it. But if there was, it's lost now. When the reservoir was being built, in the late 19th century, a number of human bones were unearthed. But their origins aren't clear either. There may have been a barrow on the hill at one time. Not sure if that might be related. And so, on to downhill, and the highest point in South Tyneside, which is 305 feet above sea level, which makes it the 4,062nd highest peak in England, and the 18,730th highest peak in the British Isles. What's this? Hidden messages. Oh, a bit disappointing. Just evidence of someone's target practice. Well, the peak seems to be somewhere in this area of rough ground. There may have been a trig point here once, but it's now either gone or buried under brambles. That kind of looks like the highest point. Or maybe it's just got the tallest brambles. I think I'll go with this as a peak. A shame it's not possible to actually stand on it, but, well, I'm currently the highest person in South Tyneside, on the 18,730th highest peak in the British Isles, top of the world. Looking down into the old downhill quarry, there was supposed to have been a prisoner of war camp here during World War II. I heard it was low security, housing Italian prisoners who worked on the land locally. Now, time to descend from the heights, back to the road. On Hilton Lane now, heading eastward, towards West Boldon. There was actually a Battle of Boldon Hills, in 1644, during the Civil War. It was a brief engagement between the Royalist forces under the command of the Marquis of Newcastle and the Parliamentary forces, Scottish Covenanters, commanded by the Earl of Leven. Why it's called the Battle of Boldon Hills is a mystery, as all the reports from various sources describe the battle as taking place on the relative flatlands around the villages of East and West Boldon. Boldon Hills was merely where the Royalist encampment was located. The Parliamentary encampment was on equally high ground at Boldon Hills. One thing we won't see today is a tower, which seems to have once existed in the fields here. It wasn't shown on the 1857 Ordnance Survey map, but it appears on the 1894 map, suggesting it was built during the second half of the 19th century. And it was still appearing on Ordnance Survey maps up until at least the 1968 edition. I've never yet found any mention of it in local histories. No photographs. What its use was is a mystery. Of course, there is a structure on the hill which could, if you were desperate, perhaps be described as a tower. We saw it earlier, it's part of the reservoir. But it's on the wrong part of the hill. And, in any case, the missing tower was in existence before the reservoir was constructed. Onwards. To West Boldon. Actually, we don't really go into West Boldon. Just touch on the edges. Etta's Seat. Commissioned by Anne and John Hudson, of West Boldon, to commemorate Anne's mother, Etta, who was a tenant of the Red Lion Public House from 1960 to 1980. Turning into Downhill Lane, and heading westwards again, along the other side of the hill. Looking down into the valley of the River Don, which will eventually join the River Tyneside. As far as I can tell, the missing tower referred to earlier should have been on that ridge. It would have been far more visible from this lane than from anywhere else. Perhaps it was a folly, built by a landowner who lived on this side of the hill. Something from another age. This type of concrete marker was once commonplace. Now they almost qualify as antiquities. Somewhere along here, a Hampton bomber is supposed to have crashed in 1940. The crew escaped with injuries, but several sheep in the field were killed. We'll take this track around the edge of the hill, back towards our starting point. Penshaw Monument in the distance, and the wind turbines of the Nissan car plant. And here we are, back on Hilton Lane. We've done a complete circuit of the Boldon Hills, and this is where we'll end the video. Hope you enjoyed the trip.